Buddy, so we're gonna go ahead and do this repair. I'll show you some tips, some things to look out for. Typically this isn't done in chassis, so we're gonna try to do our best to alleviate any problems. So if you look at the transmission here, this is worst case scenario, as if everything is falling out on you, and we'll put her back together. So first thing I wanna do is come over here, and I want to look at our Torrington bearings here. It's real important we put them in the right way. A lot of them have a blue stripe. Some of them have anti-assembly tabs. Get that in the light, Connor. So you can see the blue stripe, and then there's anti-assemblies. Some of them just have a black coating, no anti-assembly. So the book tells you which way they go. We're just going to go over how to put it together. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of tell you, this is your P1 carrier assembly, and there's a thrust bearing on here that's phenolic or plastic. Make sure that if it falls off, you get it back on. It's got things that just snaps on like that, and like, see how it's sticking up over here? Just be careful that you get it all the way flat. Okay, this is our P2 assembly. It's got the snout on it. And then this is our P3. And then here's our output shaft over here that we've come to change anyhow. So when you have this stuff on the bench, I want you to look at your P1 assembly, and there's a thrust bearing. Make sure the black oxide is facing up. So let's get, hopefully you've got that Dr. Tranny's assembly lube, that green shit. Put that all on there and glue that on there. Okay. So then we've got this bearing here. You can see the blue stripe. We want to grease that up real good. And we want to come over here to the transmission, and we want to stick it with these tabs facing in, the blue stripe out. So we're going to glue that in there real good. And then the next thing we got to do is dial that P1 carrier assembly in through the C4 clutch plates and get the pinions for P1 engaged on here. That's probably the hardest thing. So we're going to do that now. We need to make sure that carrier assembly is all the way in. We don't want to miss a clutch plate. So we got some tricks here I'll show you. So we're going to take this, we're going to get it started, and I'm going to try to pick it up as much as I can with my hands and center it. And just keep dialing back and forth and rocking it until it goes all the way in. So if I stick my finger in here, kind of put the light, I don't know, JD, if you can show how that edge of the flange is flush. And then the other thing is, I noticed that this is pretty far down. I got a 3/8 nut here. It's about the distance of a 3/8 nut. Don't drop that down the hole, but that'll give you some idea. That's all the way in now. We got our Torrington bearings still glued up. And if we come over here, we got our P2 assembly. Now this Torrington bearing has a blue stripe and anti-assembly tangs. We want to make sure that we put the blue stripe, put some grease on her. Again, I don't have any of that green stuff that you guys do, but go ahead, put that in. The tabs face up, blue stripe down, and we're going to go ahead over to the transmission, put that in, and dial that in there. And again, you can see it's all the way flush. It's all the way in. That's real important that we do that. If I look at when this is right, the end of the P3 ring gear is just slightly below these C5 anchor tabs in the case. It's just a little bit below, more towards the front. Then we're going to grab our back plate for C5 and get that in. Let me see here. There we go. Got to pick the ring gear up and get it slid in. Okay, then starting with a fiber, and you might want to put some of that grease on these. It'll help them stick in after you dry them off. You got to pick the ring gear up a little bit and get them in. And then when you get down the last ones, if you have them nice and dry and you have some of that grease in there, they should stay put. All right. Now, the last plate's in, and the P3 ring gear is like a little bit, maybe, I don't know, a 1/4 inch beyond the last plate. So then we'll make sure that your spacer is on the spline and your sun gear for P2 is all the way in. Your bearing is sitting correctly, and we're going to go ahead and dial this in. And that should go in so that, JD, if you could show, maybe with the light, that the spline for the gears on the P3 pinions are about flush with the P3 sun gear. Then we're going to go ahead and take our P3 sun gear, slide that on. Get some grease, and the bearing that goes on P3 sun gear, we want the blue stripe facing out, your anti-assembly tabs facing in. So we're going to glue that in. Okay, then we can take our new output shaft and stick that on there. And we can take our P3 carrier and get that dialed in. So now, if I look at this to verify everything's right, I see my P3 carrier. Now, this isn't a park model. I don't know what you guys are doing, a park model or not, but it's about flush, maybe a little bit beyond, get an angle of that edge of the rear of the main case. And then we're going to go ahead, got our rear cover assembly. The return spring's got this little doohickey here that goes in a slot down there. It might behoove you to put a bunch of grease on this to help glue it in. I don't know how well mine's going to stay. And it's hot. That'll help keep it in there. And then I would go ahead, and if I look in here, everybody look, there's that selective shim. So if I move this tone wheel off to the side, you can see it. Make sure that that's centered, and you get that over that. Now, the other crucial thing when I put this together is take out your output speed sensor so I can manipulate that tone wheel with my finger. Slide this on. You might have to steer it through that shim. You know, don't force anything. Get it to slide on. Get your dowel pin in the hole, and then you gotta get this caught on that carrier, on the shaft. You don't want to pull it together until that's secured on the spline. Now, unfortunately, this core is kind of messed up in the back here. So I don't know if I can get it all the way together, but you got to get this tone wheel to align on the spline, put your bolts in, and pull your rear cover in real nice and easy. And everything should be good. That's it.